Today is December 20th, 2022. This is Reality Stretch. I am your host, Spencer Ingram. Let's stretch reality together. Good morning. So, I figured out how to get my chats visible. So when we make that important jump from none to one in audience participation on this live stream, I will be ready for it. And I'll harass them. It might be a bot, and I'll just say, welcome bot, and I'll see if I can get them to respond. But the point is, oh, see, look, it says there's one viewer on Twitch, but I'm pretty sure that's probably the Restream account, right? Hey, if you're viewing this on Twitch, then comment. Say, hello. But I'm guessing it's probably to do with some sort of third-party service, since I'm using Restream to broadcast to Twitch and Twitter and YouTube Live. Anyway, alright, so I listened to the show again yesterday and some observations, listened to the program, and this is episode 4. Sorry about that. This is episode 4, and it seems that on the first episodes, I ramble at the beginning and then get into some things I think are interesting, then really pick up momentum at the end. So I want to come out swinging and pick up more momentum in the beginning. But maybe near the beginning of the show, we just discuss some general observations I've made about life through my interactions with family, friends throughout the day before, because I'm also adding principles to the sandbox. Someday, I'm hoping to release some sort of charge or commitment to people with a certain set of principles to live by, because I've made some observations I think are valuable. This is not one of them, what I'm about to say, but I think it's funny, and I was chatting about this yesterday actually with my dad on the phone, and I think it's funny, and I posted it on the show notes yesterday. But I need to find a different way to phrase this, but the principle is, I need to have a meme with like 4 quadrants, and I will make it or someone else makes it. But since no one's participating in this program yet, then it looks like I'll be making it. So I'll add that to the sandbox. Maybe I'll make it on the live stream. But imagine a quadrant with 4 panels, a grid with 4 panels. So up in the left, I'd say let's say lower left, the principle we want to illustrate is receive badness, give badness. And I'll come up with a better word than badness, because it just sounds, people say goodness, but we don't often use the word badness for some reason, but it's funny, so maybe I'll use it because it sticks. Receive badness, give badness. If you do this, you are an average Joe, okay? Using the term average Joe. Now, let's say in the upper left, receive goodness, give goodness. That's generous Joe. Okay, so average Joe and generous Joe. Receive badness, give badness is average Joe. Receive goodness and give goodness is generous Joe. Now, receive down in the bottom, I'm going to change the meme already, but the principle is in the other quadrant is receive goodness and give badness. That's scumbag Joe. And then receive badness but give goodness is Saint Joe. So the question is, how do we encourage people to move into generous Joe and Saint Joe? So if we receive pain and we receive a challenge and we receive maybe a criticism, hopefully it's constructive, but let's say it's not. If we're the recipient of something we believe to be negative, hurtful, painful, how can we be a Saint Joe? How can we receive that, process it, turn it around, flip it, and distribute it as goodness rather than perpetuating a cycle of badness? And then it's easy to be an average Joe. It's a little bit harder to be a generous Joe, but still relatively easy, because when you receive something good and distribute something good, that basically just is like an average thing to do, but a good thing to do. No question, it's good. The other possibility is to receive something good and distribute something bad, which would make you a scumbag Joe. So hopefully we can move away from being scumbag Joe, away from being average Joe, away from, towards being generous Joe or Saint Joe. So there you go. What kind of Joe are you, and what are you going to be today? So the first time, start by thinking of who you do not like, who you really do not get along with, and, pray for that person. Wish you don't necessarily have to interact with them if you're not ready, because the thing is, some people might be considered toxic with their interactions with us. I'm not advocating for make that person a more integral part of your life per se, unless you feel inspired to do so. But what I am advocating for is, in your heart, forgive that person and pray for that person and wish them well in your prayer. Pray for their success in all of their endeavors, everything they have going on in life, and just spread the positivity. It's amazing. I think praying for someone else, it's interesting that Jesus says that, because praying for someone else is a very powerful way to have our own perspective towards them change and to have greater empathy. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean we let them control our lives. But just don't, I don't know where this quote came from. Let me Google it. Let's see here. It's so good. Let me just see. Let's see if this is accurate. All right, so let me tell you the phrase, then we'll do a little bit of research to see where it came from. All right. So someone said, resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die, which I think is fairly profound. So here's someone brought it up in Quora and attribute it to Malachi McCourt. I don't know. It's not Malachi. It's got a Y. If it has a Y at the end, is that Malachi or Malachi? I don't know. Probably messing it up either way. So let's look at the Forbes one, because Quora can be sketchy. So let's see here. So Amy Rees Anderson attributes the quote to Malachi McCourt as well. So let's Google Malachi McCourt. He's an American-Irish author. Okay. Writer, one-time pub owner, and politician. He was the 2006 Green Party of New York candidate for governor in New York State, losing to Democratic candidate Eliot Spitzer. He's 91 years old, still living. So, resentment quote. Let's see here. So, let's find out where he first used this quote. Here's a website called Quote Investigator. Let's see. Huh. Well, looks like someone may have said it earlier. Um, let's see here. So this is a website called Quote Investigator. Resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Who said it? And Quote Investigator. The earliest strong match located by Quote Investigator appeared in the 1980 book The Angry Christian by Bert Gezi. Emphasis added to excerpts. Resentment is like a poison we carry around inside of us with the hope that when we get the chance, we can deposit it where it will harm another who has injured us. The fact is that we carry this poison at extreme risk to ourselves. That's an interesting perspective if we're carrying it hoping to redeposit it. So this simile is not identical. Okay, all right. Let's see. Let's see if they mention Malachi in here as well. Because I like, if it's Malachi that said it, then I like the way that he phrased it better. Anyway, if anyone ever actually wants to looks like Nelson Mandela said it too. Anyway, if Bert Gezi in The Angry Christian was the first to say it in 1980, then who knows? Maybe what's his face, Malachi McCourt, read that book. Who knows? Does it really matter? It matters to me. I think it's important that people actually find sources for things where possible. That's why when I was talking about how Albert Einstein is attributed to have said that the most important question we can answer for ourselves is it a friendly universe? I did look up to see if I could find that reference, and it's just definitely attributed to him, but couldn't find, like, there were a lot of references of it being attributed to him, but no revelation of the source material. So that's why I'm saying it's very sketchy. This quote, on the other hand, resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. This quote would be much easier to track down, and it looks like there's 2 or 3 sources where this phrase might originate. So anyway, but just remember the principle of that. Resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die, and make sure you're not that person. That's what Scumbag Joe would do. Or, don't be a scumbag. And rather than focusing on what we don't want to be, instead of saying don't be a scumbag, we should say be a generous saint. I talked about how whatever you focus on is what you get more of. So if you're putting out there into the ether what you don't want to have happen, your focus is on what you don't want to have happen. It's on the thing that you don't want to have happen. Similarly, I need to lose maybe 60 pounds, and that's what I've been saying for years. And if my focus is on the weight I need to lose, well, the thing I'll get more of is the weight that I need to lose. So instead, I've reframed it as, just in the past couple days, this is stretching reality, right? Focus on what you want more of. So I've reframed it. Instead of trying to lose 60 pounds, I've said I'm simply gaining a healthy and desirable state. All right? I'm gaining a healthy state. So I've reframed that. And you know what's interesting is like in the past couple days, I haven't had like such a sweet tooth. I haven't had uh, cravings for things late at night. I'm doing a little bit of a sort of an intermittent fasting where I skip breakfast and start eating after about noon or 1 p.m. and then stop eating at about 7. And I haven't had any issues with it since I did that reframe. So it goes back to what, Wally Minto says in his results book. See, here it is. Wally Minto, when he talks about be, do, have, rather than have, do, be. That's the way to flow with the universe. This book is very frustrating. I haven't made my way all the way through because it's very insightful, but it's split into like 3 different sections, and it's just long paragraphs. Like there's no chapters, it's just sections, and each section is just a long single paragraph in a sense. So I need to finish reading it because I like it a lot and I like the concepts there. Now, unfortunately, Wally Minto's passed on, and I haven't been successful in tracking down his estate to be able to ask someone. And the person, this was printed in the 70s, I think. Oh, and it's published by Coleman Graphics Inc. And there's a telephone listed in Farmingdale, New York. And of course I called it and the telephone was disconnected. I searched them on Google, couldn't find them anywhere. Yeah, it was published in 1976. So Wally Minto, as much as I can find about him, he taught a bunch of self-improvement courses based on this material. So this is the Alpha Awareness Results book. How to get results in life and how to get results in life, how to flow with the universe by Wally Minto. So he taught a bunch of courses based on this subject matter, and he's since passed on. But anyway, he's the one where I first encountered that concept chronologically, because I first started hearing about it when I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But he says in there he attended a seminar back in like the 70s or 80s or whatever, where they talked about be, do, have, and have, do, be. And I'm pretty sure that he must have attended one of Wally Minto or someone like him, some sort of spiritual coach's program. And look where Robert Kiyosaki ran with it. But again, the principle is, instead of waiting for society to agree, so just briefly touching on the example used in the book, a little girl who is a singer, who wants to become a singer, the way the world typically goes about it, that isn't flowing with the universe, is they say, well, if I want to be a singer, I should do all the things a singer does. I should take voice lessons. That's a verb. That's something you do. Taking the lessons. Going through the lessons. Practice. I should do some concerts. I should... as you do those things, book the lessons, book the venues, get a coach, practice, then the next step is to start having what a singer should have. Have skill, have a good voice, have talent, have an audience, have a nice dress or a nice outfit, have a good microphone, have a good venue. Once you're doing the things a singer does, you start having the things that a singer has. But you are not a singer yet. Because if the audience gets up and walks out, because you don't have talent, then everybody would agree, okay, it turns out you're not a singer. You don't have the consensus of society. You don't have the consensus of your environment. So time to hang up the microphone and, move on with life. It didn't work for you, kid. Sorry. Or maybe the little girl has talent. Maybe everything's successful. She has all the things a singer has, and the audience agrees and loves her singing, and voila. Now she has permission to be a singer. So that's how the world typically has gone about things in the past. Do, have, and be. Wally Minto points out that the proper order is to go from be to do to have. Some little girls that are a singer, they are a singer, no matter what anybody tells them or what advice they may be given. They are a singer. They know they are a singer. And because they are a singer, and it's in their nature, it's who they are, it's their state of existence, then naturally, without feeling like you're swimming upstream or forcing something or trying to make something happen, naturally, they start doing what a singer does because they are a singer. So she's going from a be now to a do. Because she is a singer, then she practices, she sings, she maybe takes voice lessons, she maybe takes courses on stage presence and dancing or whatever. So she's doing the things a singer does. And then finally, at the end, whether or not society or the environment agrees that she is a singer, and nothing's going to change that. It's who she is, it's what she does, it's her state of being. So the audience reaction really doesn't matter as far as making her into a singer or not. But more often than not, as long as she sticks with it because it's who she is, then the universe, the world will respond to that favorably. Of course, every celebrity, every famous person has their share of detractors. That's just part of this experience in this life. So I'm not saying everybody will agree, but more often than not, someone truly aligning themselves with their nature is going to be witnessed and supported by their fans at some point. Maybe not right away. Maybe she actually needs to improve her talent, but if she is a singer and if she's convinced she's a singer because it's who she is, then nobody can really take that away from her because it's self-generated. And for someone who is trying to move against their own self-belief, they're swimming upstream and they're pushing themselves to do something that feels out of their natural state. They're pushing out of their comfort zone, which I encourage people to be pushed out of their comfort zone. This is reality stretch. But I think that there's a way to do it in a way that you can hone and refine who you actually are. And then your environment and what you create, the reality that you stretch, is a reflection of who you are, rather than trying to force it to be someone who you are not, to become someone you are not currently. So my approach to something like getting fit, again, would be decide today you are fit and you're simply attaining a healthier state. Don't focus on what you are not and what you're trying to become that you are not currently. Focus on who you are and who you want to be, more so than how far you think you have to go to get there, or what you have to lose in order to be there. So anyway, that's I think an easier way to stretch reality and flow with the universe. Stretch reality, flow with the universe. All right, so let's talk about some things here I have written down in my personal sandbox. Okay, let's see here. All right, so let's quickly look at what I mentioned yesterday. This is what I'm trying to attract, a product, because I have a couple ideas that are not currently in existence, like I had mentioned. Just for an example, look at this site again, and there are lots of sites like this. If you look up live webcams around the world, then let's look at this one. Piazza San Marco in Venice. Am I saying that right? I mean, I know I'm saying Venice, right? But probably San Marco. What is it? Piazza? So here it is. It's a live view. Let's make this full screen. So we're looking at a live view, and of course it has the watermark of Skyline webcams, since they're the one that are bringing us this. It looks like the camera is posted at Hotel Concordia in Venezia. What's that? Like a little construction site? I mean, what are we looking at? I don't know. But look, it's so cool. Look, there's some people selling hats and wares. It must be kind of cold because everybody's wearing hefty coats. There's some people feeding some birds. Look, there's like a little cafe there on the right. There is, yes, a construction site on the left. But you can sit here and you can like do bird watching in Venice. Like, come on, isn't this cool? Like, imagine, let me switch to my office view again real quick. So imagine I'm sitting here in my live stream and I have like 3 boom, boom, boom pieces of art that are streaming a live feed from somewhere. And now again, for anyone who's a little bit more technical, the way I would work the user interface is have like 10, like if you poke the screen, I want it to bring up a grid with like 10 squares. And each square can hold a different direct link for a different feed. Now, the way that you configure those, so if you poke the screen, I want to see like a little settings icon on the upper right, or one of the corners that you can click on in order to input the SSID and network information of your local Wi-Fi. And I also want it to show or display the IP address of the display. Now you go to your browser or you go to on your phone or desktop or laptop and you input that IP address of that display, and I want it to bring up a GUI where you can simply copy and paste and select different direct feed sources like this one. So that's what I want. It's simple. And then the question is, how do you conceal the power cable that's going to the unit? Because no one wants to look at cables draped across their wall. So, and I would have the ability to like daisy chain the power cables. So power is only ran to the first unit, and then it's passed through to the second unit, passed through to the third unit. However that needs to happen, there should only be one power lead going to the system anyway. And again, my other thought is, let's look at a different live feed. But that's great. Tourists taking pictures. Let's see if we can have like what's a time zone, live cams by category. Let's look at top live cams. There's city views, there are beaches. Here's the Milan Cathedral. Here's a fountain in Rome that looks like it's hopping. Looks like there's lots of people there. Here's a beach. There's New York 42nd Street again. Jerusalem Western Wall. Dubai. Where is, I wonder if there's like, where's the part of the world where it's like bustling right now? Where would be evening right now? Europe? I guess Europe maybe, because what, they're 8 hours ahead of where I am? And it's almost, look, Zambia, Lower Zambezi National Park. Elephants, hippos, buffaloes, lions, and other African animals live in the Royal Zambezi Lodge. We gotta check that out. I'm gonna open it in a new tab. So over here, it's in Zambia, it should be 8 or 9 hours ahead of me. So there's a little bird. They've got a little pan, tilt, zoom feature going on automatically on this camera that is gonna pan, which I don't know if I like that or not, to be honest. Do I want a live view to pan? I guess it does in theory give you an opportunity to see a little bit more if there was something that was stationary. Maybe I like that. But yeah, so we're looking at a live view of this game reserve or this park in Zambia right now. There's that white bird, whatever it is. So we're looking at the Royal Zambezi Lodge. So I personally think it's not even really a novelty. And maybe it's considered a novelty, but I think that there would be such a great reaction to this. Because again, I think it's a super cool idea. And if I think it's a cool idea and I'm not a very unique person, then there has to be, you know, hundreds of thousands of other people that would think it would be so cool to have artwork of a live camera on their wall. There was another one that I found on a different site that had, um, and again, as a company, if you manufacture these things, you'd have to say, you know, like, look, we're not responsible for any of the content you put on this thing, clearly. Like, we're only responsible for putting the channels there, but what you put on the channels, because I don't know if you'd get into any issues. Like, here's a Smokin' Tuna Saloon in Key West on this site that's called worldcams.tv. And what's really cool about this is no one's there right now, but they often have live groups performing here, and it even shows the audio. So imagine you had a little speaker. It didn't have to be a fancy speaker. Imagine you had a little speaker on the device, so you could also capture the audio. Of course, tap the screen, turn it up, turn it down, mute it, etc. if you didn't want to hear the audio. But I was watching, like a couple days ago, I was watching some guy playing some blues, just a solo act on a guitar, on an acoustic guitar, playing some blues, singing his heart out, and it was really fun to watch. So there it is. There's lots of interesting things out there, and I just think that's the coolest idea. And again, it doesn't exist. I've looked, maybe I didn't look hard enough, but if you spend 15 minutes Googling stuff and can't find anything about it, pretty good guess. Yeah, I'm still holding steady at 1 viewer on Twitch. So pretty dang sure that that's just like the third-party service Restream API that automatically interfaces and makes it a viewer, if I had to guess. I can still post up in the chat. Hey, yo! Yeah, I really got my plans foiled yesterday. So here's the deal. I've never really posted a poll on Twitter. So I got on Twitter on my reality stretch, @reality stretch, and I created a poll that says reality stretch program is the #1 podcast in my world. See what I did there? Not the world, in my world. And it was going to be really funny because I was going to vote yes, and I only set the poll for 5 minutes. I was so alone, forever alone, because I created the poll and I couldn't hit the yes button. They don't let the poll creator vote in their own poll. So my plan was foiled and ended up being extra alone as I sat there trying to click the yes thing, realizing I couldn't, and I'm like, great, I just tweeted up a poll. I should have just deleted it, but it was a funnier story than not. But even still, I was going to be happy to report that this stream and podcast was rated #1 in my world. And I was very excited to report that to you today, but unfortunately, it did not materialize as such. All right? So I'm going to have to coordinate with one of my friends to say, follow my page and vote in this poll. It's going to be a 5-minute poll, and I need you to say something clever. All right, so back to this. Why are these sites at the top of this list? They're just architectural sites. Let's look at watch the most popular live cams. Okay, let's just look at the Milan Cathedral. What's the draw? Oh, there's a Christmas tree. A big Christmas tree. Let's see here. Wow, yeah, that's pretty hoppin'. Is that busy? I don't know. But you could know if you had some artwork on the wall of you could know if it was busy, because if you always had this on your wall, you would know relative to other times what is busy and what is not. But right now, I don't know. Is that busy? How do you even count people? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So like a square inch is about 10 people. And it seems to have pretty uniform density. I don't know, man. How many people is that walking around? No, that's a silly pursuit. I'm not gonna sit here and count people, and I'm not. If I throw a number out, see, I like to think about volume of things. Like I'm a weird kid. I say I'm normal, but there's got to be other people out there that are like me. And in the event that if I went to like a sports thing, let's say a local football game of the local collegiate team, I'm the kid that would sit there and I love watching the game, but my ADHD and curiosity is such. I shouldn't say my ADHD because it's probably offensive for people that are actually clinically diagnosed and are on medication. But I'm pretty confident that if I were to go in there to be evaluated, I might be diagnosed with it. But I shouldn't say I am something. I don't know for sure if I am or not. As far as ADHD is a label that is typically assigned to people who are clinically diagnosed. All right, I know it's used so I can decide what I am, but I shouldn't apply a label from an entity to myself without consulting with that label, right? So that's why I'm saying I should steer clear, because there are people out there who are clinically diagnosed, are um, on meds to counteract those things. And anyway, um, so this is really cool. We're looking at this Milan Cathedral, and now we're getting a little buffering thing. But also, imagine if on our system that we could have the ability to schedule different feeds at different times of the day. So if I wanted to see a beach in Playa del Carmen uh, during the daylight, and then at nighttime when nothing's really happening, maybe I want to display a different feed. Maybe you can have an interface to schedule your 10 different feeds, or up to 10 different feeds at different times. Let's look at, here's Rome, the Pantheon. I mean, it makes sense because this particular site, Skyline Webcams, is based in Italy, so makes sense why most of the sites would be in Rome or Venice. But there are a lot in New York as well. Ooh, Dubai. I've always wanted to go to Dubai. That would be so cool. Alright, so let's click on this one. Alright, some freeway in Dubai. They put a watermark on it from the Princess Tower. Full screen. Sweet. Anyway, enough on this. But as you can see, I would spend a lot of time looking at these live cams because they're freaking sick. And again, on my wall, boom, boom, boom. I need artwork. I'm gonna manifest this thing into existence. And all right, so let that be preserved in the logs of cyberspace that I am requesting live webcam wall art. It's not complicated. And again, if no one creates it, I will hire an embedded systems engineer off Fiverr out of Pakistan for $100 to design it for me, and figure out how to mass produce the thing. Again, I don't know if an Arduino or a BeagleBone or a Raspberry Pi with the 10-inch touchscreen would be the most appropriate, or if it'd be better to source a bunch of cheap tablets, because tablets are so inexpensive these days. Would it be better to source a cheap tablet? But then you're going to start getting into like scope creep. I want to keep it simple, because if you have a tablet, most likely it'll have a camera on it, and then people are going to be like, I don't want to hang a camera on my wall. That's silly. But then if you start saying, what if you have a dedicated, like a VoIP style type intercom system in your house? Because you can, but I think that's stupid. No, that is stupid. And let me tell you why. See, this is the purpose of fast iteration. If you had like a Zoom type thing hanging on your wall, and you could just call other intercoms in other houses, like other people, what's the advantage of doing that instead of using your phone? There is none. And especially because if that display is tied to that piece of that location on your wall, now you can't even walk around your house or go to different rooms or whatever. Although if you could do like a peer-to-peer live webcam, it might be kind of funny for friends and family to have a live view of, you know, to be able to create a live feed and host it on the server of the live cam company for maybe, a low fee per month just for hosting the live feed, and then be able to exchange it with friends and family. Like, that's actually kind of a funny idea. If there was a camera on this device and it could do two-way communication, imagine grandparents in Illinois have a display in their kitchen that not only displays a live feed but can stream a live feed of their kitchen. And imagine you just do that to their grandkids' home or their kids' home. And so they can watch their grandparents' kitchen live. And when they get up in the morning, they go to the kitchen, they can look at the display and see if anyone else is in their kids' kitchens. They can wave and say hi, like, good morning, as long as everybody can just, like, be cool with it and see what's going on instead of creeper with it, and then you feel obligated to talk to people and talk to each other. So I don't know, might be weird, might be a market for it, but the point is live webcam art, and maybe include a camera that can clip on but not included by default, because a lot of people just don't like the idea of having a camera and a microphone when they don't have to. But of course, maybe you could have like a hardware toggle switch to turn the camera off and on and obscure it. Yeah, but I think there'd be a little bit of a demand for that. Charge people like $2 to host, $2 a month or something to host the live stream. What would be the actual cost of hosting something like that? I don't know. But it'd be cool. Definitely more of a novelty thing. But I think that personally there's a bigger market. Like I said, I want to be able to look at this live wall art while I'm sitting on the toilet. And obviously you wouldn't want a camera in that case, because why would you live stream yourself defecating to your to the rest of your family? That would be quite unfortunate. But again, should I say this? I used to be I should say this. No, I'm going to say it anyway. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far away, here's the deal. I was a contractor that was working on a home, and the house plans called for 2 toilets in the master bathroom, about 4 feet apart, with no dividing wall. And it wasn't a bidet and a toilet. It was 2 full toilets. That was a head scratcher. All of the contractors that were working on that were like looking at each other and like, are they going to hold hands while they're taking a dump? But this was a very eccentric, I would define as an eccentric person. So more likely than not, I'm guessing that this couple probably had an argument earlier in their marriage about like leaving the toilet up or toilet seat up or down. And I'm guessing that this guy probably vindictively said, someday when we are rolling in the big bucks, we're going to have 2 freaking toilets, and I'm going to always keep my seat up and you can always put your seat down. That's the only thing I could think of, because again, it wasn't a bidet and a toilet. It was just 2 toilets straight up, 3 or 4 feet apart, no dividing wall. And it's like, whether you want to just, hold hands and be nearby as you're sitting on the porcelain throne, or whether there's the argument about the seat. I say the seat explanation is the most probable, but then I think it's ill-advised, because if I were in that position, I would install a urinal. I would install a urinal in a toilet. That's the luxury, man. Maybe a urinal, a bidet, and a toilet. Is that the luxe move? But whatever it is, you definitely have to have live cam wall art. Because if you're the kind of person that has a toilet, a bidet, and a urinal, you obviously really care about your bathroom time, and you're going to want to have that live cam wall art in there. Just saying. All right. Well, I feel like this devolved rather quickly. So here's the thing. I'm gonna hop off in a couple minutes here, but I want to say reality stretch, if you can't tell by now, the whole point is to stretch reality. Let me bring over my show notes here. Boom, here's my show notes. Here are my show notes from yesterday. The whole point of this is to stretch reality and achieve things that we hadn't before. So this is episode 4. I'll do this sort of metadata later on December 20th, 2022, and I'm gonna stream from about 7:30 to 8:30. That gives me 20 more minutes. Let's say it's an hour today. Why not? So here's the thing. I'm gonna look at my personal sandbox, and I'm going to bring in some ideas as I see fit. So let's talk about launching other projects, other podcasts, other shows. I live, as mentioned, in Boise, Idaho, and I've touched on this in past streams, but we have some news sources here, but I don't think that there's a really good comprehensive news source that doesn't maintain that if it bleeds, it leads mentality, or just general bitterness and butthurtability. Meaning, the independent blogs and news sources that I am able to find are always othering other people, like what I've mentioned in the past. And I will not listen or participate any longer in any organizations, in any significant way, in any organizations that other people. I don't want to see like a local independent blog trying to raise awareness of a corrupt HOA or an immoral or unethical politician. Like, help me out here. That's why do I want to invite the bitters into my day? And some may critically say this is me sowing bitterness about those people, but it's not. Guaranteed, if I were to meet with any of those people that I'm saying are being a little bit bitter and jaded, guaranteed I could find something wholesome to talk about with that person. Guaranteed. But if they were insistent on being toxic, then we might have to just simply part ways, and I won't keep them in my circle of influence. They can't, and they probably wouldn't even want to participate in my audience of none, right? So anyway, the point is, most of the local news sources that I can find feel either irrelevant, not local, which falls within irrelevant, or just bitter, butthurt, broken, and jaded. Maybe a little bit too harsh, but I want a reputable, reliable news source for local news and politics and events. I'm in Idaho. Idaho is known as the Gem State, even though everybody may think we should be the Potato State. I've read somewhere that we actually grow by volume more wheat than potatoes. Is that true? I'm going to add that to the sandbox right now. Does Idaho grow more wheat or potatoes? Maybe I should interview someone from the Idaho Wheat Commission to ask that question. But I'm sure I can find an answer online. But maybe interviewing that person would be an interesting interview. Would that be more appropriate for Reality Stretch? Or would that be more appropriate for something like Gem State News? I went out and I bought gemstatenews.com. Is .com still the king.com? Is that the TLD of the future? Or should I have bought like gemstate.news? Probably a good idea to buy any of them and all of them when this thing's actually launched. I can speak freely about any of these things to my audience of none because this is just my cyberspace soundbox right now. And again, another show I want to launch is Constitution Daily. Now, again, this reality stretch shows where we really stretch reality. This is my daily live stream. Today I slept in a little bit, regrettably. and I need to get up earlier tomorrow because again, I want to do this stream from 6 to 7 or maybe 6:30 to 7:30. But this is around to stay because this is the catalyst of everything else I say that I want to bring to fruition. So the Reality Stretch program is here to stay, and I'm going to do this every day, Monday through Friday. But there seems to be a deficit of really good local news that is contrary to the if it bleeds, it leads narrative. We do have some good business journals and development journals that talk about development projects and things, but I just want a general all around. If I could have one source to go to, it's ill advised to have a single news source because you would create blind spots. But that's typically in the case that a news source others other people. If I felt like there was a source that genuinely looked for the positive in the community, that is a source that I could look to every single morning or whenever and be well informed and filled with positivity. Because if you're genuinely looking for the good on all sides and in all things, you're not othering other people in that case. So do you really have a blind spot? Your blind spot in that case would be to all of the quote unquote bleeding stories, all the homicides, all the kidnappings, all the dark, all the manic, all the and the manic panic, all of this noise, this dark noise, it's abundant elsewhere. So you'll get your fill. It's practically blasted on billboards. It's so pervasive. You will find the bleeding headline. So you won't have a blind spot there because you'll find it somewhere else. But let's have a positive news source that looks for the best in everybody and in every situation and in every community. And if anyone ever does any sort of like criticism of, hey, there was this seriously horrific event and it was really damaging to the community, why aren't you reporting on it, or why aren't you covering it? And just be like, well, there's enough people covering it. There is enough people covering it. Maybe briefly mention what's happening in the bleeding community, just so we can empathize with each other and support each other and just be aware. But I don't want it to be the focus. I don't want to clickbait, click, negative, pain, hurt. Let's get some positivity flowing. Again, don't focus on what we don't want. Focus on what we do want. Positive way to be informed about happenings in the community. A positive gossip, if there is such a thing. There's nothing wrong with gossip. That's being an informed and aware person and helping others to be informed and aware. But maybe there's a problem with it if it's negatively biased towards talking about, and there's certainly a negative connotation with the word gossip in general, of you're most likely going to focus on negative aspects of someone or something if you're gossiping about them. So what's an antonym? Not an antonym, but what's a positive? What's a term for positive gossip? Maybe there's an opening there. Where's this lexicographer? If I'm going to invent the word proactable, well, maybe there's an opening for a positive gossip. Sharing the word, being informed. Gossip is just such a good word. Anyway, so Gem State News, Constitution Daily, studying the founding documents, what they actually mean. That's what I wanted to do with Constitution Daily. And perhaps partner with Gem State News to talk about specifically the Idaho Constitution. Both of my grandfathers were in the state Senate. I think politics is very important in the sense that we ought to know who we are electing and what decisions they'll make to the extent possible. We ought to be informed in as much as getting to know those who we have elected and those who we want to elect. But the reason why representative government is so important is that I don't have time to be fully active politically. I don't have time to go sit in the peanut gallery during the legislative session and process the changes. I don't have time to read the legislation. That's why there are some interesting think tanks here in Idaho, but for the most part, that's why I want to have a representative government, because I simply pick the person who I want to be in the know. I pick the person who I want to do the work. Now, I don't know how much time it would take me to go investigate, interview people, research, and find the stories that I think are positive and important and substantive. So I'm going to say right now, I don't think I will personally do Gem State News. What that means is I've got to make a lot of money on my day job so I can like hire an intern or something, or someone who can be a citizen journalist, and maybe we just post up stories on Substack and monetize it for $2 a month or $3 a month, and we just try to get as many people. I mean, good grief, what is that? I mean, there's like 1 million people in this valley. Are there enough people that would be interested in a positive news source? We're not talking random stuff. We're talking you will be well informed and aware of what's happening in the community. Events, fairs, conferences, developments, politics, legislation, policy, and entertainment, having a different person, what's coming through for a venue, what concerts, what events, what are some fun hiking trails, what are some touristy things to go do. You will be in the know more so than not, but on positive things. Are there enough people in the valley? There's like 1 million plus people here in the valley. Oh, for example, I happen to like In-N-Out Burger, okay? Now, I wasn't super impressed the first time I went to In-N-Out Burger. It tasted really fresh. I thought the fries were weird because they were so fresh, and I was used to normal fast food fries. Since then, I've come to really appreciate their fries because they're so fresh. And they're so starchy and they're so delicious, and you watch them chop the potato right there. But the problem is as well, I wasn't aware of the secret menu. So now that I get everything animal style, where they basically take like melted cheese and fry sauce and grilled onions and smother them all over the burger and smother them. You can get animal style burger, animal style fries. Why am I bringing this up? Because get ready, the Treasure Valley over here in Boise, Idaho is getting not one, but 2 In-N-Out burgers. Can you believe it? And one of them is fairly close to my house. And that's the one that will be built first, as it should be, appropriately. So I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to taking my kids over to get hamburgers, french fries, and a strawberry shake. So that's some news. I'd like to have updates on the addition of the In-N-Outs. I'd like to have spotlights on local small businesses or farm-to-table dining, or just cool things in the culture that are happening. When's the tree lighting ceremony? And I can find most of this information generally on other news sources, but there may be one story in 5 where the other 4 are national bleeding headlines. Like, it's tragic the things that are happening that are negative. Tragic. And my heart goes out to those going through those difficult things. But I don't want to dwell on those things. If you focus on the bad, you'll find it. And there's so much. Why are we so addicted to pain? Why are we so addicted to drama? We can leave it all behind. So positive, substantive news stories that would make you very well informed about your local community. Okay? Now, let's end with let's end with two things. Two things. Instead of kicking them to tomorrow, I have something in my soundbox I'm going to drop in. Three things actually. First of all, yesterday I mentioned how I want to take ChatGPT and generate a story, then generate AI art to coincide with the story, then pan, tilt, zoom on YouTube channels. Now, funny, I was in South Africa serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 2012 to 2014. And there was this little kid there, this little baby at the time. He'd certainly be, oh my gosh, almost 10 years old. Wild. His name was Gwiba. Gwiba is a fairly common name in South Africa. And I just thought it was a really cool name. Gwiba. Rolls off the tongue. It sounds great. So, if I'm going to do like an AI ChatGPT story time, I already found a channel that's called AI Story Time, but it's someone that just takes AI images that they generated and then they just do a voiceover to narrate the funny things that are happening, and it's not really like kid friendly. So I thought to myself, should I go the route of calling it ChatGPT Stories for Kids for like a channel, or should I pick a short, concise name that would in theory be easy to search up and also potentially be a brand like Gwiba? Gwiba's a cool name. So, funny story, I looked up Gwiba.com. I don't know how this worked because I used to own Gwiba.com because I thought it was a cool name, and then I let it lapse. And as soon as I let it lapse, something came in its place that I was surprised about, because it was like Great Western Investment Bank of America or something, and the acronym just ended up being Gwiba. But what's strange is I used to own Gwiba, and then I let it lapse, and then this site popped up, and the site looked like it was written in PHP and developed in the early 2000s. It looked like an old, awful site. And I'm like, how does this work? Because I know this just popped up and they're squatting on the domain I owned. So was it someone in like a third world country that just like decided to do a phishing scam? Like, if you're out there in the world, and if you ever hear this, and if you're part of like the Great Western Investment Bank of America or whatever, I apologize. I don't mean anything by that. But all I'm saying is, this site popped up out of nowhere. I should get back on the Wayback Machine or the Time Machine and find out if I can find a picture of that site, because Internet Archive.org. Oh, that's like borrowable books. What do you call the Wayback Machine? Okay, yeah. I doubt it's in here. Let's find out. Gwiba.com. I doubt. I mean, does it crawl everything? I don't know if it would crawl this. It's just loading. Come on. Wayback Machine has not archived that URL. Yep, no, funny. Anyway, neither here nor there. I was thinking about just using the name Gwiba. I'll go see if it's available on YouTube. But I'm kind of in favor of just using, and it's also of just using a simple name that's easy to remember and brandable. Because like Gwiba, apparently according to most people online, is a Xhosa name. That means like protection from God, or like protection provided by God, not protection from God, like God's trying to attack you and you're looking for protection from God. No, it's protection provided by God. And I think that's kind of cool, actually, because again, when I first talked about this ChatGPT AI story time for kids, that would be entertaining for adults as well, but appropriate for kids. Um, you remember I was looking for like a trusted thing that like kids can watch. So I think the concept of protection provided by God is kind of a cool idea because, um, again, the Gwiba channel, if that's the name I stick with, the aim would be family friendly, safe content that you always know will be wholesome and fine for kids to watch. All right. Um, anyway, and then briefly, I want to touch on Elon Musk's rules for meetings. Have you seen this yet? It was circulated virally on Twitter about 2 weeks ago during the Twitter takeover, the great Twitter purge and takeover of 2022. All right, so this was posted on LinkedIn, but he has, I want to say it was Business Insider, or was it Forbes? I feel like it was, yes. So there was, I think Business Insider is where I originally got this. I'll post it here. But this references a meeting that apparently was circulated around Tesla in, I think, 2018. Let's find out. In a brilliant email sent last year. I'm going to copy this link instead. Let's see the original thing. So it's on Inc. Elon Musk just sent an extraordinary email to Tesla employees. I really like this, and so I put it in my sandbox for treatment. Okay, really quick, let's look at it. So, he's first had some congratulations in the email of the objectives of the companies. Good job on the Model 3. So it's sort of just giving a summary of the email. Now, towards the end of the email, I'm quoting here, towards the end of the email, Musk delivers a few productivity recommendations, and that's in quotes. Quote, a few productivity recommendations. On meetings, quote, please get of all large meetings. I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be off. Please get off all large meetings unless you're certain they are providing value to the whole audience, in which case keep them very short. Also, get rid of frequent meetings unless you are dealing with an extremely urgent matter. Meeting frequency should drop rapidly once the urgent matter is resolved. Walk out of a meeting or drop off a call as soon as it is obvious you aren't adding value. It is not rude to leave. It is rude to make someone stay and waste their time. On jargon, don't use acronyms or nonsense words for objects, software, or processes at Tesla. In general, anything that requires an explanation inhibits communication. We don't want people to have to memorize a glossary just to function at Tesla. On internal communication. Communication should travel via the shortest path necessary to get the job done, not through the chain of command, quote unquote. Any manager who attempts to enforce chain of command communication will soon find themselves working elsewhere. A major source of issues is poor communication between departments. The way to solve this is to allow free flow of information between all levels. If, in order to get something done between departments, an individual contributor has to talk to their manager, who talks to a director, who talks to a VP, who talks to another VP, who talks to a director, who talks to a manager, who talks to someone doing the actual work, then super dumb things will happen. Oh, that should be a t-shirt. Super dumb things will happen. It must be okay for people to talk directly and just make the right things happen. In general, always pick common sense as your guide. If following a quote-unquote company rule is obviously ridiculous in a particular situation, such that it would make for a great Dilbert cartoon, then the rule should change. That's it on the summary of the productivity. I love that. I think it's great. I'm going to post it up on Substack, citing the source, but just my key takeaways from it. But whatever you're doing for work, whatever you do in life, whatever you do in your day, remember those principles, because I think they're very refreshing and very relevant. Okay? Now, one other thing, I want to do some like funny. Nope, I'm going to end with this thing and then I'll talk about the other things tomorrow. All right, fair enough. I'm going to end with this. So let me see if I can find this real quick. I wanted to end with what I thought was a really cool poem on. It's going to take me a second to find it. Actually, why review? Why review when I could regenerate? And it's going to be ephemeral. This is going to be an ephemeral ChatGPT experience here. So this is not going to be the same as what I generated previously. I'm going to say give me a. So I'm going to say write. This is similar to what I did earlier. Write an 8-verse poem in the style of Shakespeare. I also tried Edgar Allan Poe once, and it was really funny. Write an 8-verse poem in the style of Shakespeare that considers the following concepts in random order or recursive order. And I think I put like blood, victory, sweat, tears, greed, conquest. Like, and yeah, I'm not saying I espouse these things. What I'm saying is the output was incredibly noble and epic. And why don't we add that in? Noble, epic. Even though that doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense. Let's see if it picks up on the spirit of these things. And I also put in there like light, dark, fog, sunrise. Let's see what it spits out, because like the thing that it gave me was so freaking epic. It was so epic, and instead of pulling that up, I've saved it forever. So let's try to generate something new. You know what? Let's try to be polite. What happens if I write please? Will it get the good feels for doing all this work for me? Let's try it. Please write an 8-verse poem in the style of Shakespeare. Now, someone told me what the style of Shakespeare was. What is it? What is the style of Shakespeare? Something pentameter? Unrhymed iambic pentameter. Who comes up with this stuff? The term describes the rhythm or meter established by the words in that line. Rhythm is measured in small groups of syllables called feet. Lambic refers to the type of foot used. Here the iamb, which in English indicates an unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable, as in above. Iambic pentameter. So someone smart in my circle of influence said, oh, can you ChatGPT? I was showing her how to use ChatGPT, and she's like, can you rewrite this in iambic pentameter? I'm like, what the crap did you say? And she said, that's the style of Shakespeare. And I'm like, well, why not just write the style of Shakespeare? Because that's what I had done previously, as I said, rewrite this in the style of Shakespeare. And then it was funny because she didn't know I had done that before. And so she said, can you rewrite it in iambic pentameter? And I'm like, I was so confused. Who came up with that? I don't know. Should we look at the different styles of poetry? Let me slap this in. Different styles and meters of poetry. Poetry. I wrote petri. All right, so something to consider there. Let's see what that spat out. I said 8 verses. It gave me 4 verses. What? Okay, well that's fine. Let's see 4 verses. Let's see what it said. I said, please write an 8-verse poem in the style of Shakespeare that considers the following concepts in random or recursive order: blood, victory, sweat, tears, greed, conquest, noble, epic, light, dark, fog, sunrise. So, good. It was recursive in some of its selections. I just did a high skim. Here we go. Blood, sweat, and tears did flow as conquerors sought victory's glow. Greed drove them on a noble quest for epic tales that would stand the test. Through fog and darkness they did push towards the light and a new dawn's hush. But as the sunrise began to peak, their conquest left wounds that were deep. For every victory comes a cost, a price that must be paid and lost. But in the end, the tales will tell of heroes who fought through blood and hell. So let us remember those who fought with sweat and tears, a noble thought. Their legacy will live on, a shining light in the dark and fog of endless night. That's pretty good. Man, just gives one the chills, doesn't it? Something like that. Generate something like that. Now again, what's the feeling that I get from reading that? I'm not encouraging greed, but neither did that poem. It offered a commentary on greed. So I read that and I'm not inspired to go on a conquest. I'm inspired to reflect on the consequences of action. That's what I am personally inspired to do. But you got to admit, it's epic, super epic. And perhaps it's a commentary and an encouragement to boldly move forth and conquer your own limitations, but while being mindful of the consequences your actions may have on others. That was so nice. I'm going to tweet that out. Let me read it one more time. Blood, sweat, and tears did flow as conquerors sought victory's glow. Greed drove them on a noble quest for epic tales that would stand the test. Through fog and darkness they did push towards the light and a new dawn's hush. But as the sunrise began to peak, their conquest left wounds that were deep. For every victory comes a cost, a price that must be paid and lost. But in the end, the tales will tell of heroes who fought through blood and hell. So let us remember those who fought with sweat and tears, a noble thought. Their legacy will live on, a shining light in the dark and fog of endless night. That's just so great. All right, well, enough of this. Let's end it. I went way past the hour I wanted to be doing here, so I'll keep it more concise tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Wait, let me check viewers. Still got that one viewer guessing from an API. 0 viewers on Twitter. And how do I even view chat on YouTube? I don't even know. Hang on. Maybe I'll cut this part out of the podcast, but just for fun, I'm going to leave myself live so I can see. All right, I'll cut this out of the podcast, but I'm going to leave this live so I can try to find my chat on a live video on YouTube. And I'm going to Google how, in fact, I'll swing this over here. Let's do some research together. How can I view my live chat on YouTube? YouTube. How do I see? Let's see. Oh, maybe I have to enable it? Oh, sweet. I can display chat in OBS Studio with custom docs. Huh. So then I can have one of those, you've seen other streamers do this where they'll put the chat as an overlay on the video. That's cool. I could do that. Maybe I should do that. There's space right above my webcam face. I can totally do that. That'd be sick. All right. How to use YouTube live chat. Google help. Live chat is turned on by default unless your channel's live stream audience is set as made for kids. As soon as your live stream ends, it will be archived and viewers will be able to watch it along with the live chat. The live chat feature is only available on YouTube watch pages, not on embedded players. So, okay, how to... Oh, so they have a Q&A, live chat views. Yeah, but where do I go to see the chat? Is it a complicated ask? I don't think so. Am I just stupid? Do you do it from the studio or do you do it from somewhere else? Gotta leave this streaming so I can try to find this. If I go to comments, analytics, advanced mode. Huh. Do I go to content? No. There ought to be a way. I've got to be able to find the chat. Do I get out of... Do I go to my channel? Yeah. So here it says home. It's live. If I click on this live video. So here it says home. It's live. If I click on this live video. Let's see. Home. Okay, so I have to click on the video. And then I can pop out chat. Can I pop it out and then exit out of... So, okay, so I popped out chat. And then if I post something, say, hey, yo, I found chat. Because I'm getting all this weird feedback because I'm listening to the channel. Say, hey, yo, I found... So I need to mute the video. So I muted the video, but I also don't want to use bandwidth of me watching myself do my stream. So like, look, here's the chat. Popped it out. Hey, yo, does this work? So the solution is to just go to your channel, click on the live view, and then pop out the chat. But I should look at the chat overlays for both YouTube and Twitch. Is it worth it? I don't know. I don't think so. Might be better to just have these chats popped out. Because look, I can pop out my YouTube chat. Is this just the best way to do it? I wouldn't leave this on the screen. I would put it on my other monitor. But then I can also go to my Twitch chat and pop that out. So now I have... Heyo, heyo. Do this work? I'm gonna put a qualifier when I say we make the infinite jump from none to one. I'm going to put a qualifier on it, that if it's spitting a random number out at me saying that I've had one viewer this entire stream, odds are that's me. I'm the viewer. And it's just talking about an API. Maybe from Restream or elsewhere, or maybe because I have it pulled up, it automatically says I have a viewer. So the qualifier is first person to comment is the MVP. Once I have a comment, does someone make a chat feature where I can blast out to all the chat? That would probably be too difficult, because then how would it pull in the chat too? I don't know. But that's the deal. First person to comment is going to be the one that takes me from the audience of none to one. So now I can put these chat pop-outs on a different screen on my computer, and I can now interact with the chat. So that's all you got to do. Go look at the video, pop out, and I can do that during my fun little intro song. Which I might need to get a new intro song because my son hates that song. And one of my sons, he's like my spirit animal. So if he hates it, then that must be feedback from the universe. Anyway, alright, the little extra time there to help me figure out that. And honestly, I'm probably not even going to cut it out of the podcast because I don't think my audience of none will care that much. Alright, have a nice day, me. Have a nice day. And what am I talking about? It's not an audience of none. It's even more narcissistic than that. It's the audience of me. I am my own audience. I am the judge, jury, and the executioner. So it's deeper than that. My audience is comprised of one of my favorite people, me. What a narcissistic perspective. But I am my best company right now. Isn't it true? All right. Well, we're going to hop off this live stream and we're going to continue to talk to ourselves all day. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Tuesday. Bye.